Today I'm sharing 10 things that I learned from decluttering with my mom. We have been decluttering my parents' home for the last, I would say, 5 years or so. Just every once in a while, I head over to their house and help them go through stuff. Usually it's my mom and I going through very specific areas of her home, so we'll focus on just the Christmas decorations or just the kitchen or her wardrobe. We pick through the items and she usually lets quite a few items go, but I thought it would be kind of fun to share this video on what I have learned from decluttering with her. And just so you know, if I use the word you, I am literally talking to myself in this video on what I need to work on. So let's jump in, and maybe this will help you if you are going to be helping anyone in their lives with their decluttering projects. Number one, I have to have patience. So even though it's fun to declutter with my mom, I have to go into this situation knowing that I can't react to what she wants to get rid of or what she wants to keep. It's all her decision. And it can take longer than I think it should to get rid of certain things. But then I tell myself, well, if someone came into my home and was trying to help me declutter, how would I want them to treat me? So I have to think that way and just have patience, as if you're dealing with someone who is reluctant to declutter, and know that it can take them a little bit of time to wrap their head around the whole process. And you just have to know that when you jump into these projects, that it can take more time than you think it will. Number two on my list is, I think decluttering should be fun. It doesn't always have to be a laugh a minute. Of course, there are more serious times, emotional times with decluttering, but sometimes I think we get it in our heads that decluttering is so serious and we have to be robotic about it and have our piles and just be going through so fast through it. And this may come from all the videos on YouTube where you see people decluttering a whole entire house full of stuff, and it takes them 1 hour to go through everything. They're pulling everything out. You see them getting rid of a whole bunch of big massive piles, like, I decluttered 90% of my stuff. Okay, that isn't very realistic in most situations. So most people declutter kind of slowly. It can take a lot of time in a lot of cases. And so I feel that it's best to do this with a sense of humor and kind of a lightheartedness, if at all possible. Try to see the humor in the decluttering process. And that's what my mom and I try to do. We joke about things and we just try to have fun as we're going through it. I think of decluttering in a lot of ways similar to working out. So it's so much easier to work out if you can have some kind of joy in it when you are working out. So maybe you're just seeing the bright side of it, or you're working out outside, or you can laugh as you work out with a partner, and it just makes it so much easier to work out when you can be laughing and joking. And it's the same with decluttering. This is my take on it. If you can see the bright side in something and it's not just like someone forcing you to get rid of your stuff, I think it makes the process so much more enjoyable. So if you've ever watched any of the videos with my mom and I, we try to make light of all these situations and see the humor in it. And even when we're not videoing it ourselves, there are still super funny moments that happen when we're decluttering, and we try to lean into that and joke about it to just make the whole process more fun.
Better than the good one. This is Kathy's old stuff.
Oh, look, there's
a turtle. A blurry turtle. A blurtle.
I'll see all my friends in town wearing my old clothes.
What did you just say to me?
I'm gonna keep it all. Take it like this. You drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. There, got it. And I have a couple clowns to declutter. Deaf clowns in my drawers. Okay, start over. Oh,
Calvin.
Careful, Calvin. Okay.
Now what?
Now we can go into my closet over there. What's it called? The linen closet. I have some towels to declutter.
If we have people come over that want to drink wine, I'll say just bring a wine glass.
Number 3 on my list of what I've learned is that, and I've had a lot of comments about this, that I'm pushing my mom too much. I'm forcing her to get rid of things, or I'm making her do something she doesn't want to do. And I can just tell you that that cannot be further from the truth. But again, if we're going down the comparison of like if you hired a trainer, a personal trainer to help you work out, are you gonna want that personal trainer to show up at your house and say, hey, let's work out, but you know what? Just do whatever you want to do and take your time doing it. No, I think I would want a personal trainer that's going to show up and say, hey, this is what we're doing today. And can you push yourself harder? Can you do more push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it is? And I feel it's the same with decluttering. I'm there to help my mom declutter, but also to help her see things that maybe she is overlooking when she's decluttering or grabbing stuff out. And also to push her a little bit to try to declutter, because if not, what is the point of me being there? You know, I like to question, well, what do you use that item for? When's the last time you used it? And try to make her think outside the box of just, oh, I've always had it, so I'm gonna keep it. And that's, to me, that's the point of having someone come and help you declutter, is to push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. And so when I get these comments of someone saying that I'm forcing my mom to declutter, believe me when I say you cannot force my mom to do anything she doesn't want to do. So if I question, why are you saving that? You should, you know, maybe we should get rid of that. And she says, no, I'm keeping it, then that's that, she keeps it. So I in no way want to force anyone to declutter anything that they for sure want to keep. But there is a balance between trying to help my mom declutter as much as possible the things that she doesn't need, and also just letting her make the decisions on her own, of course. I just said, let's deal with the socks now, instead of me coming back in what, 2 more weeks that we deal with the socks. Because I think we talked about this last time, but I think we should just pull them all out. Let's just go through them real quick. It'll be fast.
It's overwhelming.
It'll be fast.
There's so many socks.
Is this all your socks, or you have a whole nother batch somewhere else?
I have the socks I actually use in the other room.
So none of these you use.
In the winter I use those.
Okay, let's really limit this. Number 4 is I'm not always going to understand why my mom or whoever I'm helping declutter wants to keep something. And the item might not make any sense of why they're keeping it. They even tell me, oh, I haven't used this in 10 years or 20 years, but I'm gonna keep it anyways. My mom will sometimes say that to me, like, I haven't used that, or I don't even like that, but I'm keeping it. And I always question, I don't know why, but that's not my place. And I've had to realize that over time, that there will be times when people, my mom, whoever I'm helping, wants to keep something and it just makes absolutely no sense at all. There was a time when my mom and I were going through her kitchen and she wanted to keep this crock pot. And even though she told me she hadn't used it in like 5 years and she didn't envision herself using it because she doesn't eat that type of food anymore and all these things, but then she said, but I'm gonna keep it. And I didn't know why. And then later in that same decluttering session, when we were trying to fit the crock pot up in the cupboard, way at the top where she could barely get to it, she realized that there wasn't enough space for it to fit up there and comfortably fit everything else. And that's when she came to the conclusion on her own that she was going to get rid of the crock pot. And that's a really good example of how this works. Is I feel when people start decluttering, they realize, hey, things just function better and can stay organized way better without having so much of the clutter. And by clutter, I mean items that we don't use very often. This,
Okay.
but you do want to keep these.
Yes.
And then I think this should go. That's my personal take on the situation.
Okay.
Okay.
When I need it, I'll have you go.
I'll go to the thrift store and get
buy me a new one.
I was pushing for my mom to declutter the crock pot, but she insisted on keeping it, which was fine until she realized what I was trying to explain the whole entire time.
Well, I'll get rid of this.
It's like not functional like
It is. It's really functional. Okay, get rid of the crock pot.
I knew it. We're getting rid of the crock pot.
Get rid of the damn crock pot. Calvin, you want a crock pot?
Oh God, it's all falling.
What does it too.
Yeah, I can get rid of that. We haven't used it.
The reason why I was pushing to get rid of the crock pot is because it takes up so much space, and I know that she was not using it and hasn't used it for years and years. Number 5 on my list is I am there to help my mom declutter, but I am not able to declutter for my mom or whoever it is. So when you go and do a decluttering job with somebody, I think the viewers on the videos sometimes say, well, why didn't they get rid of more? Why are they keeping all this stuff? But as for me, like someone helping the person, I think the same thing. Like, okay, why are we not just getting rid of all that extra stuff that you said you don't use? And it's because I can't declutter for the person. I can only declutter my stuff in my own home. And I can only point out things that I feel maybe they haven't used, or question, oh, when is the last time you used that? Do you think you will use it in the future? But I can't do the decluttering for the person. I have to let them make the decision and just help them along the way. And so really, it can be hard sometimes as the person trying to help when the person you're helping is not as quick to get rid of things. But at least I know that they will probably end up getting rid of those things in a future session.
What made me want to look at that cupboard again is this bowl. I love it. I think it's cool. I've used it maybe 3 or 4 times in 30 years because I don't really make big giant salads for a lot of people. And I have other bowls that I use. This is inconvenient to get it out, and it's also just not necessary. So I am going to declutter this.
Number 6 is there will be times when we get rid of a lot of stuff, and there will be times when we declutter almost nothing and the pile is very small. But what I try to keep in mind as the person helping, because of course I have to stay motivated as well as try to motivate the person I'm helping, and that is that every little bit helps. So my mom and I recently went through her office closet, and I don't feel we got rid of a ton of stuff. But all of those really little items added up to being a really large box of junk that we were getting rid of. And even she was calling it junk. It was just stuff that, crafting things that she was never going to use again. And a lot of it got thrown in the trash, but she donated what she could. And I just want to point out that every single little thing that leaves your home is getting you to the path of a clutter-free house and a house that's easier to organize and easier to keep clean. So don't discount those decluttering sessions where you don't end up getting rid of a ton of stuff, because every little thing does help you on your journey to living with less stuff. Number 7 on my list is that I need to be motivating but not pushy. And of course, this is way easier to do when you're not dealing with a family member. So if I'm gonna go help a friend declutter, which I've done in the past, it's way easier to not be pushy and just be motivating, because you don't know that person really closely. You don't see the stuff that they're using or not using, and you have a little bit more distance. So it's easier to be motivational without being kind of pushy or saying things like, well, I've never seen you use that before. But when it's a family member, it can be a lot harder. And I know I've seen people leave comments on my videos before like, oh, you're being passive aggressive. And it's like, that is not what I'm trying to do. I am trying to be motivating and not be pushy. But it is kind of hard when you see the person never wears that item or never uses that item, because you see them every day of their life, and you're a husband, even like a wife and a husband or vice versa, wife or husband could see the person every day of their life and never using that item, and then they could say, well, why don't you get rid of that? You never use it. That may seem passive aggressive to some people, but it's not meant to be. It's just you're pointing out something that you see that maybe they don't see. We've had this ongoing thing in our house where my husband has had the same snowboard for 15 years up in the top of our garage. And every year I say, oh, are you gonna keep that up there? And he hasn't used it. And then this last winter, we actually went to the snow and he used the snowboard, and he told me that the boots completely fell apart because they're so old. Okay, so there you go. He's probably going to declutter the boots, keep the board, and get new boots if he does decide to take up snowboarding again. But that's a perfect example of me not being passive aggressive, but just pointing out, hey, for 15 years, I haven't seen you use that snowboard. Do you think we could declutter it? And then he says no, which is totally fine because that's his thing. But yeah, I think when viewers watch, sometimes they don't see what I see because I am with the person every day. So it's much easier to declutter with somebody that is not a family member, to be motivating yet not pushy. But this is just something I have to remember for myself, and what I've learned is be motivational, but don't be pushy. And of course, I'm never trying to be passive aggressive. If that's what people see in my videos, I don't know, but just thought I would mention that, and that is something that I have learned along the way. Number 8 on my list of things I've learned is that there seems to be no rhyme or reason why people decide to keep something or get rid of something. I used to think that you could just go through this list of questions, which I do think helps a lot when you're struggling to let go of something. You know, does it fit? When's the last time you wore the item? Do you like it? Is it your style still? You can still go through all those questions and they will help tremendously on the decluttering process. After I've decluttered with my mom for so many years, I can just see that there is no rhyme or reason to what she decides to keep and what she decides to declutter.
The funny thing is the trays I'm hanging on to are like the $1 trays I got at Party City. I got rid of all my good trays. I'm keeping the cheap trays.
So for probably, I don't know, 10 years, she had this shirt that had little cats on it. And her and I laughed so hard about this. It was a collared shirt. It had these little cats. My mom doesn't have a cat. She's not a cat person. And I would always say, you never wear that shirt. Why don't you get rid of it? I like that shirt. I'm gonna wear it. She kept that shirt for so long, and it just did not make any sense to me why she wanted to keep that shirt, but I didn't care. That's fine. I would just always question it, like, are you gonna get rid of that shirt this time? And then finally, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, she said, you know what, I'm getting rid of the cat shirt. And I mean, there was just no rhyme or reason why she held on to it. But that's what I've learned over the years, is just there isn't always a reason why people want to keep something. It doesn't always make sense. So just know that when you're trying to help somebody, that you can't always make sense of what they're trying to keep. Number 9 is I've learned to try to enjoy the decluttering process and learn along the way. So just as I'm sharing all this information I've learned from helping people declutter and from my own decluttering experience, I think there's always a learning lesson within every single decluttering session. So at the end of every video that I do with my mom, I always ask her, what made you get rid of more this time? Or what made you finally get rid of the cat shirt? You know, I ask her these questions because I want her to think about you know, the reasoning behind why she's finally willing to get rid of those items, because I think it helps us to learn for future purchases. And I do this for myself as well. When I'm decluttering something, I think, unless it's just worn out and needs to be thrown in the trash, but if there's a reason why I'm getting rid of something, let's say a certain type of shirt that I bought and I just don't wear anymore, I will question myself and think, what can I learn from this? Why am I decluttering this shirt even though I never really wore it and I just ended up not liking it? What was the reason? There was a time when I decluttered quite a few shirts that were made out of a certain type of material, which was a learning experience for me, because I realized not to buy shirts in that type of rayon material because they clinged to me and I didn't like that feeling. So that is one thing that I always try to point out to people and ask that question of, why are you letting go of this item now? Or what can we learn from this decluttering session? Because I think it helps so much when you are going to be purchasing your next item to avoid those things that you just got rid of. Number 10 on my list is that all decluttering is positive. Anything that you're getting rid of that you no longer use is something that you will, like I said, learn from, but also it will help you on your way to living in a clutter-free environment. A little bit goes a long way, and I always like to say it's the snowball effect. So when you declutter one little thing out of your house, it can motivate you to continue decluttering and get you further along on your decluttering process. I share a lot more about this over on my blog, shannontorrens.com, and you can join my free email list in the description box below. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button to join my channel, and you can click right here to see all the decluttering I've done with my mom over the last 5 years. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!